The Netherlands of 1974 were not just a football team. They were a warning that the game would never be the same again. While the world expected yet another World Cup defined by brute force, rigid discipline, and pragmatic football, a team emerged that seemed to ignore all the unwritten rules of the sport. A team that refused limits, that rejected fixed positions, that treated the pitch like a constantly moving chessboard. This team didn't just want to win. It wanted to dominate, to control, to humiliate with intelligence. Thus was born the myth of the Clockwork Orange. But to understand 1974, we need to go back in time. Back to a Netherlands that was breathing transformation. The 1960s and early 1970s were a cultural earthquake in the Netherlands. Amsterdam was boiling with progressive ideas. Traditional hierarchies were collapsing. Youth questioned authorities, governments, churches. There were demonstrations in the streets, psychedelic music in the bars. Heated debates in universities. Counterculture was not a passing trend, it was the new normal. The Netherlands were reinventing themselves, and football inevitably would be swept up by this wave. In the clubs, especially in Amsterdam, a new generation of players and coaches began to question dogmas. Why couldn't defenders attack? Why couldn't forwards defend? Why did football have to be so predictable, so static, so limited? The answer was simple. It didn't, and it was in one specific club that this revolution began to take shape. Ajax didn't play football like everyone else. Ajax played chess at high speed. Under the guidance of Rinus Michels, a disciplined, demanding, and visionary coach, the Amsterdam club conquered Europe. 3 consecutive European Cups between 1971 and 1973. But more important than the trophies was the way they played. Players constantly swapped positions. Fullbacks became attackers. Attackers dropped into midfield. Defenders stepped forward to press. The pitch shrank for the opponent. Space was suffocated. Mistakes became inevitable. This concept received a name that sounded almost utopian: total football. The idea was radical. Everyone attacks, everyone defends. There are no specialists in a single function. The entire team is a living organism, breathing together, moving together, thinking together. Michels was obsessed with pressure. His teams didn't wait for opponents to build plays. They attacked the ball in the opponent's half, forced errors, recovered possession instantly, and then, with quick passes and constant movement, tore entire defenses apart. And at the center of all this was a skinny young man with long hair and a magnetic personality, Johan Cruyff. Cruyff didn't run like the others. He seemed to float. Slender, elegant, almost fragile in appearance, yet completely dominant on the pitch. Cruyff saw spaces before they even existed. He dictated the tempo, guided teammates, organized chaos. More than a number 14, Cruyff was the system itself. He didn't just play total football. He thought total football. Every movement had a purpose. Every dribble opened a passing lane. Every run dragged defenders and created space for teammates. Cruyff was also arrogant. He spoke his mind, challenged coaches, demanded excellence, refused mediocrity that made him brilliant and difficult. But on the pitch, it was undeniable. He was the maestro. And when Michels took over the Dutch national team in 1974, he brought with him not only his philosophy, but his most brilliant disciple. Rinus Michels didn't select players just because they were talented. He selected players because they were intelligent. Players who understood the game, players who placed the collective above the individual, players willing to sacrifice personal glory for the good of the system. The squad was filled with Ajax stars. Besides Cruyff, there were Niskans, Krul, Hahn, representative, but players from other clubs also joined, such as Jonglot in goal, Van Henegem in midfield, and Rensenbrink in attack. All different, all brilliant, all committed. Michels molded them into an indestructible unit. Training sessions were intense, almost militarily. High pressing was drilled to exhaustion. Movements were rehearsed repeatedly until they became instinctive. The Netherlands arrived at the 1974 World Cup in West Germany, surrounded by curiosity. Some admired them, others doubted them. Many believed that such beautiful football could never work in a World Cup, a competition known for rewarding pragmatism. not point. It took only a few minutes for the world to realize they were wrong. The Netherlands didn't play against their opponents. They played against space. In the first phase, they didn't simply win. They imposed themselves. Uruguay 0-2 Netherlands. The debut was a display of force. Uruguay, two-time world champions known for their rigid defense, were completely neutralized. The Netherlands scored twice and could have scored 5. Cruyff, Rensen, Brink, and Rep shown. The world began to pay attention. Netherlands 0-0 Sweden. A rare stumble. Sweden, disciplined and defensive, managed to contain the Dutch momentum, but it was only a draw, not a defeat. Netherlands 4-1 Bulgaria. The response came in devastating fashion. 4 goals, total control, hypnotic passing. Bulgaria were humiliated. Cruyff scored twice and delivered a masterclass of dribbling, passing, and movement. But the real test was yet to come. The second phase of the 1974 World Cup was divided into 2 groups. The winners of each group would advance to the final. The Netherlands were placed in Group A, alongside Brazil, the reigning 2-time world champions, Argentina, and East Germany. It was a group of death. Netherlands 4-0, Argentina were massacred. The scoreline didn't reflect Dutch superiority. It was a lesson. The ball circulated as if guided by invisible strings. Cruyff scored 2 magnificent goals. The Argentines chased shadows. East Germany 0-2 Netherlands. Absolute efficiency. East Germany, a disciplined and tactical team, were dismantled. 2 clean goals, total control, a comfortable victory, and then came the match that would define everything. Brazil 0-2 Netherlands. This was not just a football match, it was a collision of styles, of eras, of philosophies. Brazil in 1974 were no longer Brazil in 1970. That magical team of Pel, Jairzinho, and Tostão had retired. In its place came a more physical, more aggressive, less inspired side, but they were still world champions and they still carried Brazilian pride. The match was violent from the start. The Brazilians tried to intimidate. They tackled hard, provoked. They wanted to pull the Netherlands out of the game through brute force. But the Netherlands responded with what they did best: movement, intelligence, and collective superiority. Nieskens and Cruyff scored the goals. But the score was almost irrelevant. What mattered was the message. This team feared no one. The victory over Brazil was not only tactical, it was symbolic. It was the new destroying the old. Modern art surpassing classicism. Total football proving it was not a utopia. It was the future. Netherlands versus West Germany. On one side, collective art, constant movement, and audacity. On the other, efficiency, discipline, and German pragmatism. Cruyff versus Beck. Total football versus German precision. The stage was the Olympic Stadium in Munich. The crowd was overwhelmingly German. The pressure was suffocating. And then one of the most symbolic moments in World Cup history unfolded. Kickoff. The Netherlands passed the ball and passed and passed and passed. For over a minute, Germany didn't touch the ball. 14 consecutive passes. Cruyff, Nieskens, Rep. Cruyff all involved. It was hypnotic, humiliating, beautiful. Then Cruyff accelerated. He received the ball in midfield, surged forward like lightning, entered the German penalty area with elegance and speed. Uli Hoeneß had no choice. He brought Cruyff down, Panady Nieskens stepped up. Goal Netherlands 1-0, Germany. Germany still hadn't touched the ball. That was total football in its purest form. The myth was real. But football has a cruel way of punishing excess confidence. The Netherlands continued to dominate. But emotionally, something shifted. Control turned into complacency. Confidence turned into vulnerability. And Germany did what Germany always does. Waited, endured, and counterattacked. In the 25th minute, Bernd Holzien entered the Dutch penalty area. Jongbloed came out poorly. Penalty for Germany. Paul Breitner converted. Goal 1-1. The match was level. And for the first time in the tournament, the Netherlands looked shaken. 2 minutes later, Gerd Muller, the ruthless goalscorer, received the ball in the box, turned, and finished. Germany 2-1, Netherlands the comeback was complete. The Clockwork Orange tried to respond. Chances were created. Pressure was relentless. Cruyff had opportunities. Rep did too. But something had broken. Time was no longer an ally. Anxiety replaced clarity. When the final whistle blew, silence fell over the Dutch players. They were not world champions. Cruyff, on his knees, stared at the grass. Neeskens cried. Michels remained motionless on the bench. Perfection had slipped through their fingers. But something strange happened in the weeks, months, and years that followed. No one talked about Germany. Everyone talked about the Netherlands, because titles are numbers. Legacies are eternal. The Dutch national team of 1974 taught the world a new way to play football. It shaped generations of coaches and players, rebuilt clubs, redefined the philosophy of the sport. Without that Netherlands side, there is no Guardiola's Barcelona. There is no Spain of 2010. There is no modern football as we know it. The Clockwork Orange proved that football can be collective without being mechanical. That beauty and efficiency can coexist. That losing a final does not mean losing history. The Netherlands of 1974 did not lift the trophy. They lifted the game itself. And perhaps, in the end, that is the greatest title a team can ever win.